There you go. Got the recording started. Okay. All right. So this is the library website. I've shown this to you all once at your orientation. In order to access PubMed, the fastest way to get there is to use the Databases tab, which opens a window with some drop downs, and simply go to select the database, and you can type in PUB, pub, and PubMed comes right up. Now, the beauty of going through this way is that you get access to all of the UTC activated journal subscriptions that we pay a great deal of money for. PubMed is a government website. It says freely available interface. So you can use Google to access PubMed, but the problem with going through Google is that you will not be able to access your UTC subscriptions. Another thing to note is that if you are off campus, if you are not on the UTC network, when you access PubMed through this link, you will be asked to log in with your UTC ID and password. That's to make sure that we can verify you're an enrolled student, and as long as you're an enrolled student, you will have access to all of the paid subscriptions that we have here in the library. So once you graduate, you will no longer have that access, but you will still be able to use PubMed because it's a freely available resource. It's just you won't be able to get to quite as many subscriptions. So here's PubMed. It's a very simple search screen. It has just a single search box up here at the top. On the left below that, there's some help guides. I'd encourage you to check those out on your own time. In the middle are some PubMed search tools that are sort of specific for different types of functions. And then over here on the right, we have the link to more resources. Before we actually get started searching PubMed, I thought what I would do is show you the My NCBI account. Now, setting up an NCBI account is really a useful thing because it allows you to save information. It allows you to set up search alerts so that you can receive new information each time articles are published on your topic. You can look at your search history so you can see which keywords you've used. So there are a lot of useful features. So the first time you visit PubMed, you'll want to go to sign in to NCBI, and you have a variety of ways you can sign up. You can sign up using your Google account, which many people like to do. It's one less login to remember. There's a couple of other ways here if you're a member of an NIH group or if you're a member of this Research Commons, or you can register for an NCBI account. I've had my NCBI account for 25 years, so I created my own username and my own password. And so when I visit PubMed to do searching, I go ahead and sign in. And when you sign in, up here on the top right, you'll see your username, you'll see My NCBI, and you'll of course see the option to sign out. When you click on My NCBI, it opens up a page, and this is where all of your information is stored. So for example, you can actually run a PubMed search from right here. You can use My NCBI to create a bibliography. Now, I don't use that feature because we have EndNote and other software in the library that we use for formatting bibliographies. Over here on the top right, it has saved searches, and we will talk about that once we get done doing some searches. You can set up an alert so that it will send you articles. You can set the frequency of a month, every week, to send you updated information as new research is released on your particular topic. So it runs that search automatically and then sends you results. Then you have collections. Collections is a really nice way to organize your citations. So you can have favorites. Those are just articles that you choose to put a star next to when you're searching. There's other citations. There's a bibliography category. I have two collections in here right now, one on ADHD in females because I have two daughters who both have ADHD. So I have that as one of my collections of articles. And then I've also put one in here for gun violence because that is the search topic we're going to use today as our sample. So you can create collections for your term paper projects, for your research studies, for what the group projects you're working on. You can share those groups, so you can change the setting from private to public and invite people to share those citations with you. So it's a nice way to organize your research so that you have an easy way to track down articles. Over here on the left, you have a recent activity that shows the searches that you've done. I find this very useful to remind me of sort of the terms I've used. I sometimes take a look at what I've done and then go back and maybe adjust my search terms and try a different combination of search terms. And then over here you have filters. I don't use this. You can set up custom filters so that it automatically only shows you clinical trials or only shows you review articles. I don't have any of those set up because I prefer to filter my articles on each individual search and decide what I want to filter. So lots of features here in my NCBI. The saved searches and the collections are probably going to be the two most useful. Up here at the top under your username is where you will put in the email address, and you have challenge questions when you set up your account. You have an alternate email address. So all of those preferences are saved in there. So My NCBI is one of the first things you'll need to do. It'll be part of your homework. You need to set up a My NCBI account and then use it to create a saved search. So that'll be part of your homework. So one of the neat things here, it says in this search PubMed box, it says, hint, by clicking on the search button without any terms listed in the box, it automatically takes you to the PubMed homepage. So I'm going to do that, and it takes me automatically to the PubMed search screen. So those are the basics of setting up your account. As far as searching, it looks very simple. It looks like Google. You could just type in a whole string of words and hit search. You could certainly approach it that way. But one of the things that we want to talk about today is this MESH database. Now, MESH stands for Medical Subject Headings. And what MESH is a set of controlled vocabulary and a thesaurus used for indexing articles in PubMed. So it ensures that if you are searching for a particular topic, if you use the controlled vocabulary, the word that's generally, or the words or terms that have generally been agreed upon or selected as the official terms to describe that subject, you should find the vast majority of the research on that topic. So it's sort of like tagging articles in a very consistent manner. The other wonderful thing about MESH is it gives you context. So if you want to look up a particular topic, it will give you lots of subheadings, lots of related words, lots of see also references. So our topic for today to take a look at was gun violence, was the one that was suggested to me as a sample topic. So I'm going to start off really simply here, and I'm going to look up guns and find out how guns are listed in the MESH database. So I click guns, I hit search, and it's taken me into the list of MESH terms, and the term that is used is not guns, but firearms. So it tells you the definition. Every MESH term has a definition. Some are longer than others. Some definitions run on for an entire paragraph. Underneath that, you also have subheadings. So for example, under firearms, we could look just for statistics and numerical data, or legislation and jurisprudence, or ethics, for example. These subheadings vary depending upon the term. Firearms is not a medical condition, so if we were to put in something, for example, like type 2 diabetes, we would see underneath this, we would see etiology, diagnosis, prognosis, treatment options, age of the patient. We would see many, many, many different subheadings underneath the more medical conditions, so that this is a way to really, really focus in your search. Like I said, you can do free text searching in PubMed, just type in a string of words that describes your topic, but by using MESH, you're guaranteeing that you're going to be taking an approach that brings up the articles that are tagged with precisely the clinical focus you want to have in your search. Notice down here below you have synonyms, shotguns, guns, and rifles are other terms that firearms encompasses. And then you have these see also references, which I find very useful. This is where you get your context. So you have wounds, comma, gunshot. So we might want to look at gunshot wounds, not just gun violence. So that's another thing we could file away for later. We could come back and try a different search using gunshot wounds, or wounds, comma, gunshot as our search term. Then underneath here, you have where firearms falls in the hierarchy. And notice the broader term is weapons. So we could even go back and do a search for weapons, which of course would include not only firearms, but other types of weapons. So it gives us a sense of context. I'm going to keep it general for our first search here. So we're just going to keep it broad because we haven't really chosen a very narrow clinical focus yet. We're just getting started. So I am going to go over here on the right, and there's a PubMed search builder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, add this term to Search Builder. And you'll see that firearms appears in quotes, and then in brackets after it, you see the word mesh. So what this is telling PubMed, the search engine, to do is to track down every article for me that has the mesh tag firearms attached to it. So that's the first step in the process. Now, most searches require combining terms. You're not just looking at guns, you're looking at something, some aspect of guns. So our other half of our search question today is violence. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to put in the word violence. Now it pops up and suggests a whole bunch of things. Again, I'm going to keep it broad because I'm just getting started with my research. And when I hit search, it brings up the main category, violence, but then all these other kinds of violence: workplace violence, domestic violence, gender-based violence, exposure to violence, which would be perhaps like violent video games or something like that, or perhaps trauma in a war zone, intimate partner violence. That's a very specific term, and notice it gives a behavior, a pattern of assaultive and coercive behavior. So these tags are very specific, and they're designed and selected by clinicians. So they bring with them, you know, a whole lot of clinical relevancy. So I'm going to click the main term, violence, because I'm not sure if I want to specify just domestic violence or just gender-based violence. And when I click the main term, violence, I get the definition at the top. And then look at all the subheadings: analysis, blood, diagnosis, drug effects, drug therapy, epidemiology, great term, tells how widespread it is, etiology, which is cause, history, legislation, mortality, excellent term we could use. All of these would give us much more focused sets of results. Like I said, it's much different than just typing in a string of terms. I'm not going to choose any of these narrower topics at the moment. I'm going to start with just a very simple search so that we can then learn how to use some other kinds of filters. Notice there's also a restrict to major mesh topic. This is a useful feature if your topic is something really, really broad. So if you're researching, for example, something like heart disease, I mean, cardiovascular disease is one of the largest areas of research in modern medicine today. So if you restricted to just mesh major topic, that would mean that the sole focus of the studies that search retrieved would be cardiovascular disease. So it's not going to be a case study of a patient who had a hip replacement who also had heart disease. It's going to be articles that are solely focused on the medical issue of cardiovascular disease. So I recommend the major topic filter if you really want to narrow down a broad clinical topic. So if any of you are choosing a disease or a condition to research, I don't know what your individual research topics are going to end up being, but if you're choosing something with a clinical focus, that mesh major topic can be a great way to cut down the number of results you get. Notice there are other words here: synonyms, atrocities, assaultive behavior, behavior, assaultive. The previous indexing are other ways that this was described in the database. And then here are your mesh categories that give you all the context. So here's violence, appears right in the middle. The broader term is crime. Violence is a form of crime. And then underneath violence, there are some of those other more specific ones that we saw earlier in the list. Again, I think I'm going to keep it broad because I want to show you all how to filter beyond just keywords or mesh terms. So I'm going to go ahead and add this, and notice how it does the same thing. It types the word and then it puts the term violence in quotes, and then it puts mesh after it in brackets. So now we have in our PubMed search builder a search that's prepared to be run that's going to focus solely on firearms and solely on violence in the mesh subject heading fields. So you can do this is going to be part of your homework, is to capture a screenshot of doing this with your particular topic. So you're going to want to read through the mesh headings, find the ones that match your topic as closely as possible, and do this exercise to find resources that match with your topic. So I'm going to click the search PubMed button and see how it takes those terms that I just put in up here in the top with quotes, with brackets, all of those special things that tell it to search for only those particular mesh terms. I've got 1,077 results here, which is obviously an awful lot of results. The articles are right down the middle of the screen. That's pretty much how every database works. And over on the left, we have filters. These are ways that we can narrow. Notice that there are two different ways you can sort your results. Most databases offer you more than one way. There's best match and there's most recent. The default is always most recent, so that you will see things that are published this August 9th. This was published just 3 weeks ago. So you will see the most recent things first. This lovely little date filter over here allows you to see how many are published in each year. There were 92 articles in 2016 and 74 articles in 2017. So, and then notice the search details box over here on the right shows you exactly I didn't mean to do that. It shows you exactly the search that was run. So you can see if you had a more complicated search history, you can see all the different subheadings that you had included. So as far as filtering, 1,000 is way too many for me to look at. And the filters that I find to be extremely useful are these article type filters. Now, the way they work is you can set up what you want your default article type filters to be, that they show up for you to choose. I have clinical study and systematic reviews chosen because those are things I commonly use in my research personally. You all may be looking for different types of articles. When you click customize, it pops up a list. There are nearly 100 different types of article in PubMed. So you've got bibliographies, case reports, clinical conferences, clinical studies, clinical trials in phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, comparative studies. I love comparative studies, particularly on large-scale public health issues. So I'm going to choose comparative study as one that I want to consider looking at. You can go down here. You've got controlled clinical trial. You've got evaluation studies, guideline, meta-analysis. Meta-analysis means taking a look at large numbers of studies and trying to draw conclusions. Multi-center study. There are so many choices here. Practice guideline, research support, government versus non-US government, systematic reviews, validation studies. So I chose a few, and notice how when I choose a few to show, they show up over here on the left. Now, I've decided I wanted to look for comparative studies that talk about firearm violence. So all I have to do now that I've set up my custom filters is simply click on it. So I click comparative study, and notice it cuts it down from 1,000 articles to 37. So that's a pretty significant reduction. Now it's time to start thinking about looking at these. You can also filter by date range. A lot of people want to confine their research to the last 3 to 5 years. Bear in mind that research studies take years to produce in and of themselves. So a study that comes out in 2018 might well be based on data that was collected in 2013. So recent is often very critical, particularly in the health field. So a lot of people like to choose. You can choose a custom range. If you just want the last year, you can do that. You can set that up. So as we start looking, notice it also tells me what filters are activated right here in the middle. There's a blue information icon that reminds you that you're looking at a filtered set of results. You can clear that filter at any time and go back to the main list of 1,077 articles. So I'm going to go down here and I'm taking a look at these: weapon carrying, physical fighting, and gang membership, concealed handgun licenses in Texas. Taking a look, and I think this one right here, homicide, suicide, and other violent deaths in international comparison. I chose this one because I think it would be very interesting to compare this particular phenomenon in the US versus data that's collected in other countries. So in order to see more information on a particular item, you just click the title. It shows you an abstract right here in the middle of the page. So it's a cross-national study. It talks about incidents and patterns of homicide, suicide, or murder-suicide. And it relates to the United States, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. So it indicates that they're more likely than other types of lethal violence to involve a female victim, take place in a residential setting, and be committed by a firearm. So I think this study is of interest to me. So at this point, there's several things I can do. I can add it to my favorites. I can add it to a collection, so I can add it to my collection of gun violence articles. I'll go ahead and do that. And then up here on the top right, I have some options for how to get the full text. Now, this is the beauty of coming through the UTC link to PubMed. This red button on the top right that says Get It at UTC is a branded link that we work with PubMed to coordinate linking our subscriptions through to their website so that authorized UTC users can get access to their subscriptions from within PubMed. So don't click the Elsevier button. It says full text. Read the full text, but that is designed for individual subscribers. It's not designed for institutions. So the red Get It at UTC button is the institution link that takes you actually through our website. So if I click that, what it does is it opens another window and it takes me to that information on that article right here. It tells me where it's published in Forensic Sciences International in 2011. And then it gives me all of these blue hyperlinks that are places where I can actually link through. And notice we're in the, see the top branding up here on the left? We are actually on the UTC website at this point. We jumped out of PubMed into the UTC website, and I click the title, or the blue link rather, and it takes me straight to the article. Notice how it says on the top right, brought to you by the UTC library. This is why you want to go through our website and you want to use the Get It at UTC buttons. At this point, I would want to download the PDF, save it somewhere. I recommend putting them in your Google Drive or saving them on the desktop of your laptop. Create a folder for each project. Once you do that, it'll open a window, and then there's the download button on the top right, so you can get your article, get your article, save the actual, save the actual copy of it. I'm trying to close these windows down so that we can then get back to our PubMed results. So that was the process. You click Get It at UTC, it opens a window with a branded UTC link. You click that link and you go straight to the article. So it's 3 steps. It's a lot of clicking, but given the number of online subscriptions that we carry, it's something like 57,000, and the number of different publishers, websites that are involved, the fact that it works so efficiently so much of the time is really, I think, pretty impressive. So anyway, so that was an article that I liked, that I was able to get the full text. Now the one above it, Goods for Guns, the use of a gun buyback as injury prevention and community education tool. I also liked the sound of that one. It's in the Journal of Trauma. You can see right below the author, you have the information on where it was published. And if I click that title, notice it has the exact same thing. It has abstract with background methods and results. It has up here some full text links, and then it has a Get It at UTC button. Now I wanted to show you this one on purpose because I want you to see what it looks like. This does happen from time to time, but in this case, we do not own this article. So do you see how it says borrow from another library? This would be a point at which you would need to request it on interlibrary loan. And this is a service that's available to you. When you click on this link, I won't do it because I don't want to go in and actually generate a request. It will ask for your UTC ID and password. It will allow you to hit submit, and then you will receive that article in your email, usually within a day or two. So interlibrary loan is an option that's available. Just because the article is not available directly, if you think it's a great study on U.S. children between the ages of 5 and 14 years and gun-related homicides, and you need to look at these results, it has a lot of statistical data. If you feel you need to see that full article, you go right ahead and request it, okay? I could also add it to my favorites if I wanted to put it in my gun violence collection. That way, if I ever needed to track it down again, I could do so. Okay, but for the most part, when you go ahead and download the full text, you should have everything you need. All right, and then I'm going to go back to the results. There's one more thing I wanted to show you in the results. Every now and then you will see, here at number 4, we'll take a look. You'll see the words free PMC article. PMC is PubMed Central. And what it is it is a repository for federally funded research that is supposed to be made freely available. It's part of when government money goes to fund research studies, those research studies are supposed to be made freely available. So this is something you can use even after you graduate from UTC because these are free to anybody. So if you click on free, the title of one that has free PMC article, you will see the Get It at UTC button, you will see the Publisher button, but you will also see a nice big button here that says, look, the full text is free. So you click that, it takes you straight to the article. There's a PDF link. You can go ahead and download the PDF just like you would for any article, but there's no subscription required. For whatever reason, this Journal of Urban Health article was made freely available, probably because it was funded with government money. So the free PMC articles are really useful to have. You know, I often go through, you can filter where it says free full text on the left. That will show you the ones that are freely available. A lot of people like to take a look at those. Sometimes they get started with a handful of things they were able to find through the free PMC filter. Other people, you know, just if you happen to see it, oh, I'm just going to take a look at that one because it's there. So there are lots of choices. There are also additional filters. Now, I don't know what your individual studies are going to be on, but there are cases in which, for example, language. There are cases where perhaps a great deal of research on a particular condition or disease may have been done in another country. And you will find articles listed in PubMed that are not in English. The title will be in brackets, and underneath it, it will say something like Portuguese. So language filters can be very useful. You can show the language filter and just click on English, and it knocks out anything that's not in English. Everything in this search was in English. But that's really useful. If you come across an article that is in Portuguese and you try to request it on interlibrary loan, we probably won't be able to get it because most American libraries only subscribe to medical journals that are in English. So some people have tried to use Google Translate to translate the abstract to see if it's useful, but foreign language materials are generally difficult to track down, and in most cases you're going to want American content anyway. Species is, you can, there are veterinary articles in PubMed. Most of the topics you all will be researching, you won't have to worry about that. They will automatically be dealing with humans. Okay. So now that we have run this search and we've played around with our results a little bit, I want to draw your attention up here to the top where it says create alert. So create an email alert for this search. So I'm going to do create an alert, and here is your PubMed search. It shows the mesh headings and the words we chose. And this has a filter on it. I can take the filter off if I want. Would you like email updates of new results? Yes. And you put your email address in. You can schedule the frequency, daily, weekly, or monthly. And the report format will be a summary. So you'll receive the title of the article and a portion of the abstract. Number of items to send. You don't necessarily need to specify this. 20 items. Any text you want to put in the email, so you can title, you can put text that says, here are my new articles on gun violence. So I hit save, and now I actually have that search saved. So if I go to my NCBI, I should see that. You see that saved search? So this is one of the things you will have to do as part of your homework, is create an alert for a search that covers your research topic, and then do a screenshot to show your faculty members that you have in fact done that. Okay. All right. I'm going to go back to PubMed. And interestingly, PubMed doesn't have a whole lot of back buttons inside of it. We just use the back buttons and forward buttons in the browser. Some databases have buttons that say back to results. That PubMed doesn't have that. You just use the back button. So I'm going to go ahead and clear my filters and bring it back to 1,000 items. The other thing I wanted to show you, so this, I will show you a little bit about free text searching and how you can search if you don't use mesh headings, what happens. If I go up here and remove my mesh heading search, and I simply put in gun violence. So I'm just doing the 2 words, gun violence, and I click search. Notice I get more. I get 1,800 results. So there are results in here that don't have mesh headings attached to them, that the word guns or the word violence may appear in there. And notice over here on the right under search details, PubMed has automatically mapped to firearms. Do you see that? We put in the word guns, but it automatically mapped to firearms. and it automatically mapped to violence. But it also includes other random stuff, because there's obviously at least almost 800 more articles, over 800 more articles than the previous search. So it threw a lot of other stuff in there. That's the mesh headings really do throw out the things that aren't relevant, that just contain the words but aren't relevant. Notice also that it's offering you, when you use free text searching, it says, do you want to switch to the best match sort order? You can try that. That's a relevance ranking. It's much like Google. You know, the things that seem to be the most relevant rise automatically to the top, but it will not give you the most recent information first. So you just need to bear that in mind. And if you if we then went and said we only wanted the last 5 years, that cuts it down from 1,800 to 600. And then say we only wanted comparative studies, that cuts it down to 12. Wow. So, and these are not all the same results, you see. So a lot of times searching the medical literature is not a precise science. You might do a handful of searches using the mesh browser and find some good results. You follow that up by doing a handful of searches using free text searching and filters to see if you find additional things that were perhaps missed by your prior searches. So it's not a one and done thing. It's very much a trial and error process. I will say the librarians that work here are extremely good at helping with keywords and with mesh terms and with, figuring out which of the subheadings and filters and combinations will yield the best results for your searches. So you all are going to do some homework for this class, but as you get further down the road, if you realize you still need additional help from us, you can always reach out to me. You can always say, look, I'm working on this project. This is my topic. I think I need to find a few more sources, and I'm having trouble. And what I can do is take a look at what you've done thus far and see if I can make some recommendations on search terms. Another little thing that PubMed has recently started doing is on the top right. It has a little box called titles with your search terms. By limiting just the words you search in free text to just words in the title, sometimes you get more focused research results. So you've got gun policy in the United States, evidence-based strategies. I like the sound of that one. So if I click on it, it takes me straight to it. There's no abstract, there's no author information. So at this point, I could click get it at UTC. It's in applied health economics. I can see if we can get access to that. I don't know if we have that journal. We do not, so we'd have to borrow that from another library. So, but by giving you these other related articles, it does the same thing. When you click on a title, you have your full text and your save to favorites. It also has similar articles. This is sort of like on Amazon when you're looking at a particular set of headphones and it says people who bought this also bought these other headphones. This is kind of the same thing. It takes the same terms that were used to index this article and tries to find additional articles that cover similar ground. So see, my recent activity is over here. I can see everything I've looked at and all the words I've searched. I've got some filters checked. I can clear them at any time by using the clear all button. I think those were the main things I wanted to point out. I think looking carefully through the abstract is really important, an important step. You want to find out what the size of the study is, what the method was that they used to collect their data, and what the conclusions are. Do the conclusions line up with what you hope to argue or research? Do the claims not line up with what gap you've identified in the literature? So this is the evaluation piece is really important, and librarians can help with that as well. So we can sit down with you if you've got a whole bunch of results and you've saved a bunch of articles and you're wanting to kind of go through them and figure out which ones seem to be the best fit. We can help you with that as well. And I understand you're going to get help from the Writing Center as well. And Basil, who works as the graduate writing coordinator, is a super resource for helping put all your articles together into a coherent paper. So the last thing I wanted to show you, you can always click the PubMed logo on the top left, to go back to the home page. I did want to show you this clinical queries. Clinical queries is a filter that PubMed does to track down clinical studies, systematic reviews, and then genetics, which won't apply to some things, like gun violence probably won't apply to, but it can be really useful. So if you put in a condition or your topic, I'm just going to do gun violence because that's our topic for today, and I click search, in the left column I have a list of studies, and notice there are clinical study categories, therapy, diagnosis. You can see how this would be really useful if you're researching something like diabetes or heart disease or immunizations or anything with more of a clinical focus. In the middle column, you've got systematic reviews. A systematic review is similar to a meta-analysis. It's gone through the literature, it's weighed the validity and strength of all the different studies that have been done, and it reaches some conclusions. This one says a critical synthesis of research evidence on the effects of gun policies in the United States. So clinical queries is a great way to find some of those cornerstone studies that show you the big picture. They're usually, I mean, a systematic review is not, it's not the same thing as, for example, a clinical trial where 70 people were given a particular medication and then they track the results. These are big picture, broad syntheses of large scale research. So they can be very useful for background as part of a lit review for a research project. So clinical queries is, librarians at the National Library of Medicine designed this filter, so it automatically in the background goes and sort of hunts and prioritizes using custom filters, and you can read more about that, about how it works down here at the bottom. But it is a really great way to find, like I said, some of those cornerstone articles that synthesize large quantities of data. I think that concludes most of what I wanted to share with you about PubMed. Like I said, there are some help guides on the left. By all means, take advantage of, watch some of the tutorials, read the FAQs. If you need some reminders or refreshers, you want to see their help materials. Make sure you visit through the UTC Library website, and then make sure you set up your My NCBI account so that you can save the results and send those along as part of your homework. Did you want me to talk a little bit about Google Scholar?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. Well, let me go back to the library homepage. Google Scholar, I would say, treat exactly the same as PubMed. You want to go through the library website, and you want to choose Google Scholar as your database. Now, Google Scholar is, to the library world, a complete black box. They do not tell us what publishers they work with. They don't tell us how they work with publishers. It's kind of, we share our information with them. We register with Google Scholar, and our Get It at UTC link should show up. Google Scholar is wonderful because you can just put in a string of words and it goes out and looks. See the Get It at UTC is showing up. Every now and then you'll get the PDF free from someplace else. PSU has a free PDF of that particular article. So you click on it. It should take us straight into our website, and there in fact is the American Medical Association Journal website. You can click that, opens another window, and then you'll have the full text of the article. So Google Scholar, as long as you go through the library's website, you should have access to all the things that say brought to you courtesy of the UTC Library. And remember to download the PDF when you find it. I will say, do not paste this URL up here at the top. That JAMA Network URL, it knows right now that I am logged into my computer in room 220 in the library under my UTC ID and password. But if I paste that link in an email and send it to myself, and I open that link 2 hours later, the session ID will have expired. So it will say something like file not found. So you always want to download the PDF. And sometimes there's a share link or an email link. That may work just fine as well. But you can't just paste the URL because it won't recall the details of how you got to that article. It's a security thing. They don't want people being able to send URLs to people who don't have authorized access to the articles. So don't do that. Just make sure that you either download the PDF or use the tools provided by the publisher's website. You also don't need to create accounts on all these different websites. results. NCBI is very important because the PubMed is just such a large resource. It's going to be your main source of information. But each publisher, you could spend all day long setting up an account with every publisher, and I'm not sure that you really need it. So you just use the back. So see, there's quite a few things available here, either through UTC or through other sources, JSTOR, alphapublications.org. I don't even know what that is. So Google Scholar is great. You can also obviously filter just like you can on PubMed. And then, of course, it has cited by, which is very nice. 214 people have cited this article on gun death. Related articles is another thing. You can click on that and find articles. Here's one on the epidemiology of firearm violence. So if I click related articles, it runs another search in Google Scholar to try and track down more articles that have the same keywords in the same relevance area, so that they'll find similar things. And so you can see Get It at UTC appears quite a few times. So Google Scholar works great. I love Google Scholar because if you only know a fragment of the title, or you only know an author's last name. So I know, for example, that Kellerman did a lot of the gun violence research. You can do Kellerman and gun violence, and there it is, New England Journal of Medicine, 1998. It's one of the foremost articles on gun violence in the United States. I click Get It at UTC. It's going to take me straight into the UTC subscription. We do have New England Journal of Medicine, and there's the article. So there's the article. This was one of an independent review done, I believe, at the University of Washington. Yeah. Okay. So Google Scholar is great if all you know is one piece of information. And I love it for names. So there's a particular author who's the most famous researcher on flu vaccines. You could go in and search that person's name, add the word flu vaccine, and Google Scholar will bring up all of the relevant articles. And then you can use these related articles links to find even more. Okay? Is everybody good with that? Is there anything else you want me to talk about?
Well, maybe this is a good time to open up for questions if anyone.
Yeah.
So just if you have questions, unmute your account on the bottom left and talk away, please. I guess that means no questions.
Okay, well, I am going to have the video of this available in about an hour. We will have to post it on our YouTube channel and send you a private link, and you can share it with anybody who was not able to attend today, okay? Let me go back to my PowerPoint and give you your homework. Here is your homework, and this will also be sent along. I'll just send this slide to you, and you can post it as an announcement in UTC Learn if you want. Use the mesh database to build a search strategy, and then take a screenshot. That was on the right where the mesh search builder lives. Run a search in PubMed and use filters and limits. So take a full screenshot that shows your search bar, the filters on the left. If your search is very narrow, you may not need to use very many filters, but at least show us that you've done the search. And then after running your PubMed searches, you'll need to set up an alert in your My NCBI account and take a screenshot showing that, okay? And all 3 screenshots are to be emailed to your professor by midnight, September 3rd, Monday, okay?
Virginia, we can't see that screen. We're still on your
oh. How's that?
We got it.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. But yes, so those are the 3 questions. I'll let you read them for a second, but I'll send this along. I'll send this and the capture link of the video very shortly, and you can post it in UTC Learn. And I am at work all day today and all day tomorrow. If anybody does need help, you can always email me. I am Virginia. You just Google Virginia UTC Library and you'll find me. You can send me a note if you're having trouble, and I'll be happy to help. Okay.
All right, Virginia, thank you so much. That was truly wonderful. these are such valuable skills for us all to learn. I mean, I learned several new things today myself. So
Well, good.
Valuable, and I'm sure the students will be very appreciative over the next couple of years as they all use these skills. So
sure. And if you ever need me to come make a 15-minute appearance at class one evening, like when y'all are workshopping topics or going through your studies, I'll be happy to do that. Just let me know, okay?
all right, thank you very much, and
All
thank
right.
you for everyone to attending.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.